Okay guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to be doing this melting object effect in Houdini today. And yeah, drop a like, subscribe, and let's get right into it. Okay, so what you're going to want to start off by doing is dropping down a geonode, diving in, dropping down whatever object you want to use. So I'm going to just use the rubber toy geometry. I'm going to drop down a transform node. I'm going to set that transform node to 0.275, and I'm going to go underneath and just make sure I can see these lines here that are like our guideline to make sure he's not below the ground. And then drop down a fluid Vellum configure fluid, make that visible. Set the particle size. Now this is going to differ per your object, so if you've got like a different type of object, you generally want to have these little spheres, not to be too fine because it will kill your rendering time, but yeah, probably something like that I'd say if I was to take a guess. Something like that. So particle size 0.02 and have it look like that, but if you've got like a bigger object, then maybe like you'll need more or bigger particles or whatever. Drop down a Vellum solver, make that visible. Drop down a ground position, don't drop down, tick it there. Set the substeps to like 5. The constraint iterations to like 20, and then the smoothing iterations to 50. Tick on global substeps and set that to 5 as well. Set the polish passes to like 50, post collision passes to like 50, and set collision passes to 50 as well. And this is because rendering fluid that is self-colliding itself here can have like artifacts that you wouldn't actually want happening in your scene, so that's why we do that. Drop down a point deform node, connect the third input to the first input of the output of the Vellum solver, the second to the first input of the Vellum fluid, and the first to the transform node there. Make that visible, then give that a play. Alright, click escape and go back to that 10th frame if you're on that frame. And as you can see, these are the artifacts that I was talking about. Terrible deformation of the object. So the way to get rid of that would be to turn up the maximum points, and 500 does a little bit, but maybe turn up to 1000. Doesn't seem to do much. Play with the radius. Yeah, the radius is what does it. That's what fixes it big time. So if you just turn up the radius, that like pretty much fixes it, but it does change the effect, but not that much. And so if you just keep playing it out and play with these 3 settings here, you should be able to get this melting effect that you want. I'm just going to pause this here and drop down a file cache and cache out these frames. I'm only going to do the first 60 frames. I'm going to set it to explicit and then save it where I want to save it. Okay, so once you've file cached that out, it looks good. However, there is artifacts here which is a bit annoying, and would be solved if you would run the file cache again, but just turn up the point deform, which is not exactly fun, but it would for sure fix that. But yeah, that's pretty much the tutorial. If you want to make the material that I showed in the in the thumbnail, drag a principled shader there, drag that onto there, set it to like a orange, yellow, set the OIR all the way up, the roughness all the way down, set the reflection, leave it like that, transparency to 1, drop down a skylight, drop down a grid, don't do that, just undo that, drop down a grid, set it to like 10 uniform scale, go into render view, and just render that out, and that's from the older shot. Go onto material palette, drag it onto the rubber toy. You're gonna have to go to OBJ, go onto Geo1, then scroll up to this and tick off add shader, come out, go back to render view. Okay, so apparently once you file cache something out, it keeps that shader on, so just go back on point to form, drop another file cache, and actually we can experiment here and just turn up the point to form to 5,000. That seems pretty crazy, maybe 2,500. I'm gonna play the first 11 frames just to see how it looks, and then decide whether I should turn down the maximum points. Okay, so it's got to the 11th frame as planned, and it looks okay. The only thing that I'm kind of worried about would be let me just fix the shader here. Yeah, you just gotta play with the settings a bit, and you'll find what you want. The only thing that I would say could be something that could be a bit annoying would be that the point to form just doesn't let it actually spread out. Like, see how it's kind of going below the ground surface here? So just experiment with the point to form node, and you will eventually find like a effect that you'd want, but this is just like the main bulk of the process. And yeah, drop a like, subscribe, and peace. And that is the final effect. As you can see, it looks pretty good, I'd say, and I'm quite happy with the melting effect. Seeing as I was just playing around with it and thought that this was pretty cool. And yeah, drop a like, subscribe, and peace.